Take two. Good morning. Woo. Oh, awesome. Nice to be together. I don't know if you've ever had one of these experiences. I had this experience, and I was in Liverpool, and at the time when I was working there, I was working for a financial institution. It rhymes with Nat Best, figured out. No, so I worked with a local national international bank, and I had this boss, and she was like the best boss you could have ever imagined working for. I mean, she just was like encouraging and helpful, and she taught me loads. She just was a great boss to work for. And I don't know if you've ever had like a great boss or a great leader that you've worked for. You know, she just did a really good job. I learned loads from her. She was a great influence, you know, and a great example. It's just really nice to work with someone like that. I don't know if you've ever had someone like that in your life. Maybe you've had a coach, sports coach, and they were just really, really good at helping you be more than what you thought you could be. And yes, I've just given birth to a wire. Yes, I'm half Android, so. Maybe it was a teacher. Maybe you had someone who was like a teacher in your family, and they were, in your life, and they were really good at leading and teaching and guiding. Or maybe it was a family member or a youth group leader, or maybe a small group person. Someone in your life who they were just a good leader, and they were really good at helping you become better than what you even realized you could be. And hopefully we've had experiences like that. We've probably had experiences of the opposite, which is where you had a boss that you didn't really like to work for. You know, they were just hard work to work for, whatever reason. I don't know why, you know. Maybe you had a teacher who was belittling rather than encouraging, or a coach who thought that the way they got the best out of people was by screaming and shouting at them. And I don't know, I don't know. You know, maybe you had a small group leader or a mentor or a coach or just something in your life, and it wasn't really the best that they could have been. And it you know, it affects us. It affects the way we function and operate. And this is not a new thing. I tell you what, this has been going on forever, because this is like a human thing. You know, we all know what it's like to work with people who aren't good leaders, and we all know what it's like to have experienced people who are the opposite or who aren't and good leaders. And you know, the thing is, we've been designed in such a way in our lives that what other people say over us does impact us. That's how we've been made. That's how we've been created, isn't it? You know, we've just been designed to, to function in that way. And I hope more than anything that you've experienced in your life somebody who's spoken life over you and spoken good things over you and helped draw things out of you. I hope that you've had people in your life like that. That would be my desire, that you've experienced that. You know, and I'd hope that as a local church we can model what it means to be people who encourage one another, who draw life out of each other and speak good things about each other. I hope that we can model that to the world and to one another. I really hope that we can do that. I really hope that we can be that way. But like it or not, our lives have all been impacted by good and bad influences in our life, haven't they? You know, it's a fact of life. We've all been impacted like that. And more than anything, I want to see us experience life to the full. Life to the good. Life to the full. I don't know how else to say it. Life to the full. Life to the max. Life upon life. Like life upon life. I don't know how else to say it. And at the moment, we're doing a short series, and we're looking at this idea. We're looking at some of the stuff about what Jesus said about himself. And you're thinking, well, how does that just link into all this thing you've just been talking about, like having a good leader and a bad leader? How does that actually link into what you've just been saying? And it's because it's this universal thing that we have all had an impact and experience about people that have been good leaders or bad leaders. And we want to, because it's universal, I think Jesus speaks into that. And I think he's going to speak into our hearts today. And what we're leaning into on this series is we're just looking specifically at what Jesus said about himself. Because we can all say things about him, but we're looking at what he said about himself. And wherever we are on our faith journeys, whether we're curious and just starting, or whether we feel like we're new believers, or whether we feel like we've been followers of Jesus for our whole life, who he is speaks into us at every stage of our journey. Every stage of this journey, we are part of it, and who he is speaks into that, speaks into our hearts, whatever stage we are at. And I want to look at this. I just want to look at this, dig into this idea of these good leaders and bad leaders just a little bit more, because there's a particular story where Jesus actually talks about this stuff. And this has been going on for a long time. Now, one of the cool things about the Bible is not only a record of the life of Jesus, that's in the New Testament, that's like the second half, but in the beginning of the Bible, it's like a history book. And you've got records of different things that took place. It's the history of the Jewish people. There's a lot of ancient history in there. And there's this crazy passage where they're actually talking about leaders. They're talking about the leaders in their lives. And one of the most common terms that was used in this culture was the term shepherd. Here's why. Because a lot of their famous leaders were shepherds. So Moses, the guy that let my people go and did the whole thing with the water trick, like the Red Sea. Moses, he used to be a shepherd. They're liberator. They're one of the most famous people. And then their most famous king of all kings, the guy that killed giants, the guy that helped build amazing facilities and all this the guy that led Israel at its most opulent, grand stage in all of history was a shepherd. David was a shepherd. So they've got these people who in their history were shepherds. And so the term for leader throughout their history and throughout their culture, leader and shepherd became synonymous. So shepherd became synonymous for leader. And I want you to just hear this review. It's quite scathing. There's a review about some leaders at the time. Listen to what it says. This is in the history of Israel, the ancient history, and it says, "Shame on you." This is in Ezekiel. And Ezekiel was a prophet, and a prophet sort of called things out. And he's writing to these people who are leaders in Israel, and he says, "Shame on you. Shame on your shepherds of Israel. You only take care of yourselves. You eat the curds, you use the wool, you slaughter the choicest animals. You do not take care of the flock." He carries on. "You do not strengthen the weak, heal the sick, or bind up the injured. You've not brought back the strays or even searched for the lost. You have ruled harshly. The sheep were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for wild animals." Ouch. I mean, how much more scathing can you get on a review about your leader, boss, shepherd? And this is the culture. This is the language. This is what they're talking about. This is what they understand. Here's Jesus. He's come into society. Shepherds are still everywhere. And he's come to earth to show us that he's different to what they've known before. He steps into the culture to show us what God is really like. And this is why it's important for us to learn more about who he is. And here's what I just find so incredibly, incredibly encouraging. Jesus meets us where we're at. He totally does. He totally meets us where we are. He appreciates our baggage, and instead of telling us off, he shows us another way. Jesus meets us where we are. He appreciates our baggage, our context, our culture, our history, the stuff we've experienced, the stuff that we've had, good or bad. He appreciates, understands it, and instead of telling us off, he just leads by example, by showing us another way. I'm going to help connect the dots as we just kind of keep going. He's like, I'm going to tell you and teach you, but more than that, I'm going to show you. I'm going to back up what I say by how I act. My behavior is going to reinforce my belief, he's gonna put it into action. And this is when you look at the life of Jesus, this is what he does all the time. He tells, he teaches, he shows, and then he does it. He lives it. He tells, he teaches, he demonstrates, he shows, and then he just lives it. He does it constantly. You'll see the pattern all the time when you read through these biographies about the life of Jesus. You'll see him doing this all the time. He just repeats this pattern, because more than anything, he wants us to understand who he really is and what God is really like. And he understands whatever journey you've been on, whatever experience you've had, good or bad. He understands all of that. And he doesn't come along to tell you off and tell you you're wrong and tell you, just wag his finger at you. What he does is he comes alongside and he leads by example and shows us a totally different way to live and love and experience life. That this is the model. He did it all the way through. Everything he did. This is how he did it. And so we're going to just really jump in. We're going to deep dive on a conversation. If you got your Bibles with us this morning, you can look into the book of John. It's John chapter 10. And all of these statements where Jesus talks about himself are from the book of John. John was the one who recorded them. And John chapter 10 is where this whole exchange came about. And it goes like this. And it says this in John chapter 10, verse 1. He says, I'm telling you, Pharisees. So it tells us at the beginning, I'm telling you, Pharisees. He's speaking to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees were like religious leaders at the time, but they weren't just religious leaders. They also had like legal power. Okay, so there's this like combination between, law and religion, and they helped measure and mark and assess and make sure everyone's doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. Okay, these were the Pharisees. They were like religious leaders. They were, quite important, designated people. So he says, so here he is talking to people who are leaders. Yeah, I'm telling you, you Pharisees, if someone enters the sheep pen by climbing over the wall and not going in through the gate, they're a thief. They're a thief. Okay, they're like stealing stuff. Because the shepherd enters by the gate. Now remember, Jesus is talking to a whole bunch of people who are still sheep herders. It's an agrarian society. Everybody is planting their crops and they're growing their crops, and that's what they live on. That's what they eat. There is no internet. There is no Wi-Fi. People are not working as programmers. People are not like getting an Uber or asking for Just Eat to deliver like camel burgers or something, right? Okay, these people live in an agrarian society. Everybody knows what he's talking about, and he's using their culture and he's using their experiences, and he's alongside. He's talking into the situation and into the culture, and everybody knows exactly what he's talking about. I personally do not know any shepherds. I don't even know if I've ever met a shepherd. Just saying. I don't really know anybody in the real life person who actually looks after sheep nowadays. So I don't know. Anyway, all of these people knew that he was talking to what he was talking about. And he carries on. He says, the sheep will listen to his voice. He calls them by name and he leads them out. He's talking about the shepherd. And when he's brought out a sheep, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. Remember, in the context of the day and age, there was a lot of shepherds at the time. And just imagine for a moment that this building, this room that we're in right now, is the sheep pen. And what would happen is this person would have a little flock of sheep, that person would have a flock of sheep, that person would have a flock of sheep, and that person over there would have a flock of sheep. And you'd all bring them into one collective pen in the evening. So just imagine that we're all sheep from different flocks, Barbara, nice to see you. Anyway, oh, Lemmy. No, so imagine we're all sheep from like different flocks, okay? And then what would happen is, in the morning, the shepherd would come and he would begin to call, here, sheepy sheep, whatever it says, I don't know. It's probably universal that you talk like goo-goo when you have babies and little animals, I guess, right? I don't know. So call on the sheep. And the sheep that belonged to that shepherd, you would know which ones you were, and you'd get up and you'd leave. And then the ones that belonged to that shepherd would get up and go and get up and go. And this is what's happening in this context. When he says they'd come to the pen and he'd call them by name, it's because the shepherd would know which flock was his, and the flock would know which shepherd was theirs. And this is what Jesus is talking about. And this is the culture, this is the context. They all totally understand it, because the sheep The sheep would know his voice. They would know his voice. It's kind of like this. You could sort of say that they recognize him, they trust him, and they follow him. The sheep recognize him, the sheep trust him, and they follow him. This is what's going on, you know? And Jesus is talking about it, and they all sort of are nodding their heads and understand sort of what he's going at, but then they're like, what is your point? Like, I'm not sure what's your story about? Which is lovely how the Bible is so incredibly honest, because it says in the next verse, in verse 6, it says, Jesus used this example, but the Pharisees didn't really understand what he was telling them. Like, okay, thanks for this like agricultural lesson. Why are you telling us this? Okay, cool, but what's the point? Which is probably what you've been thinking for the first 10 minutes while I've been speaking. You're like, come on. No, it's kidding. So what's the point? And then he begins to try to explain it a bit more. And this is a paraphrase of the next of John 7 to verses 10. This is a quick little paraphrase. He says, look, there's thieves and robbers who come to steal, destroy, kill the sheep. And then he says, but I'm the one who comes to save and to give life. John 10:10, a very famous, well-known verse, you know. I have come to give life and life more abundant, or life that you could live to the full. It's like Pepsi Max. This is like Life Max. I'm like Life Max, okay? So I have come to give you life and life to the full. All of a sudden, Jesus starts connecting the dots a little bit differently. He starts moving it on from just talking about a bunch of sheep in a pen and a bunch of different kinds of shepherds. And he's like, yeah, but the thing is, people steal and they destroy and they're out to take advantage, but I've actually come to give life. You see, he's starting to move the conversation in a slightly different direction. And then the next thing he says, and this is where he makes this incredibly bold, audacious, preposterous statement about himself. He says, I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, they're not shepherds. They don't even care. When he sees a wolf coming, he runs away and attacks the flock. I am the good shepherd. He says it again. He says it the third time. He carries on. Just like my Father knows me, and I know my Father. Yeah, I know my sheep. So I go back to the other one. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. I lay my life down for the sheep. I have other sheep not in this pen, but I must bring them also. I'll tell you what he means by that in a moment. They will also listen to my voice, because there shall be one flock and one shepherd. Just quickly on that idea of like there's other sheep and other flocks, what he's talking about there, because he's talking to Jewish people in a Jewish culture, but Jesus didn't come for just the Jewish people. He came for all people in the whole world, and later on in other areas, it's clear that what he's talking about is more than just you here listening to what I'm talking about right now. I came for more than just the Jewish people, and this is what he means by there are other sheep also that I must call, because my pen is not this. God's loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes, not just this pen, not just these people, not just this location. That's what he's talking about there. But 3 times, you notice 3 times he qualifies himself. I am the good shepherd, good shepherd, good shepherd, good shepherd. Now just ask yourself, why did he have to say good? Because I just read to you how they talked about bad shepherds. Did you know there's more verses about bad shepherds than there are good shepherds? Because it's easy for us to criticize people, isn't it? We know what it's like to have a horrible boss or work in a dumb company or work for like big things that you don't like. And it's so easy to be critical and complain, right? You're not nodding. Yeah, for a few of you are nodding your heads. There's 3 honest people in the room. It's so easy. Like society is easy to tear down other people and complain about the problems that we have, aren't we? Like we've all been doing it for history, for thousands of years. And we've got records, ancient records from thousands of years old. And people are saying about all these rubbish shepherds. And in this culture, Jesus is qualifying who he is in their language and in their culture and in their understanding. And he says, listen, I'm the good shepherd. I'm the good shepherd. I'm the good shepherd. I'm not like what you've experienced before. I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. He says it like 3 times. He wants us to understand that he is the good shepherd. And he knows that these people who are hearing him talking have had other shepherds in their life. In fact, there's few of them standing there right now because we know that he's talking to Pharisees. It told us at the beginning, hey, you Pharisees. So you do that, you're in the room. He's doing this teaching. He's doing this lesson. And we know Jesus had crowds that followed him. And they wanted to hear what he had to say. And they wanted to see him perform a magic trick and all this kind of stuff. You know, they want him to do something for him, right? And Jesus is teaching people. And he's teaching. And we know that there's Pharisees in the room because he's already addressed them at the beginning. And he's telling these people there's a different type of leader. And I know that you've all had bad leaders. Hint, hint. Those 3 standing at the door over there and those 2 over there. The Pharisees in the room, right? Can you feel the context, the tension of what's actually going on? It's all of a sudden, it's not really just a little tame, nice story about Shaun the sheep. It's actually like, whoa, it's actually something more, right? He's actually doing something. So, he's just moving in and he's like, I am here. I am here. And I am doing something totally different to what you've experienced. Jesus tells people, he teaches people, he demonstrates it, he shows it, and then he puts it into practice. He puts it into life. And he says, hey, I'm the one here that's giving life. You've got other people who have been in your life who actually were robbing you of your life. That's what he's saying, isn't it? Thieves come to steal, kill, and destroy. He started off by saying, hey, a thief comes in and sneaks over the wall to try to get to the sheep. That's not the real shepherd. They're trying to take advantage of people. He's like saying, I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to do. Do you catch his heart? Do you catch what he's trying to communicate? And I just want to take a moment now. And I want to compare what Jesus said to that scathing review that we just read a moment ago. We're going to jump back to Ezekiel. It's Ezekiel 34. Reading this now, we're going to start thinking about how Jesus was a different shepherd. Shame on you, shepherds of Israel. You only take care of yourself. You eat the curds, you use the wool, and you slaughter the choicest animals. You do not take care of the flock. You do not strengthen the weak, heal the sick, or bind up the injured. You have not brought back the strays or even looked for the lost. You've ruled harshly. The sheep were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for wild animals. All of a sudden, we've got a contrast. Okay, this is what one type of shepherd does, and then Jesus says, here's what the other type of shepherd does. And Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. Others will come in to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come to give you life and life more abundant. I have come to give you life and life more abundant. Jesus said this about himself. He said that he was here to gather the lost sheep. Matthew 15:24. I was sent to gather the lost sheep of Israel. Jesus was here to take care of the flock. It says this in Mark. It says, seeing the crowd. This isn't the only place it said this. It says, seeing the crowds. He's moved with compassion because he sees all these people and he feels like they're like sheep without a shepherd. So what does he do? He just thinks, wow, what an interesting observation. No, he does something about it. He begins to teach them. He begins to tell them. He begins to instruct them. All of a sudden, Jesus, the picture of Jesus, we begin to understand, okay, yeah, he is a little bit of a different kind of shepherd because this guy is actually looking for the lost. He's actually here to find those that have been scattered and those that have been pushed further away. This is a different kind of sheep. And then when he said he was here to heal the sick, to bind up the injured. He said this about himself at the very beginning of his ministry. He stood up publicly and he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me. You can't get away with the claim. He said, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he's anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me. It's like word for word, the exact same thing that we just read in Ezekiel, isn't it? It's like word for word. Have you ever noticed that before? It's like bang, bang, bang. It just lists them. Hey, here's what I've come to do. I have come to heal the brokenhearted, to give freedom to the captives, liberty, freedom to the prisoners, recovery of sight to the blind, and liberty to the oppressed. You ever noticed how he just like, he claims about himself the absolute opposite of what other people are being blamed for and identified as. These are more than just nice things. He is stepping straight into the culture, straight into what these people understand and what these people have experienced. And he begins to show them a different way to live and love. I am the good shepherd. I am nothing like you have ever experienced before. I am nothing like whatever you have experienced before. Nothing like whatever somebody said over you. I am nothing like whatever some other leader has said to you. I'm nothing like whatever somebody has done to crush you, to hold you back, to pull you down. I am nothing like that. Nothing like that. I'm not here to use you for my own advantage. I'm not here to just treat you like some sort of commodity. You are a person, a named individual. You are a lost sheep. I've been looking for you. I've wanted you. I've desired you. I've been wanting to. You see, all of a sudden the language, what Jesus is saying, he is something so incredibly different to everything they and us had ever experienced in the past. Jesus is the good shepherd. The one that more than anything wants to see life, and life to the max. Life to the full. Freedom, sight, healing, recovery. Man, good things for you. To see you run, not stumble. To see you flourish, not falter. To see you excel, not be crippled. This is what he came to do. He came to be that kind of shepherd. That's a totally different kind of shepherd. This is the Jesus who tells us about leaving the 99 to find the one. Only a good shepherd would do that. Only a good shepherd would do that. That story's in Luke 15. Jesus is the one who lays down his life for the sheep. A number of places this is said. We'll just look at the one from Mark. He said this a number of times. He says, I didn't come to be served. I didn't come to get something out of this. I came to serve and to give my life away as a ransom for many. A good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Why would you do that? Would you do that? You got a flock of 15, 20, 30, hey, even maybe 99. That's a magic number, right? 99 red sheep. So you got sheep, right? Yeah. Would you do that? The good shepherd gives their life away for the sheep. I don't know, if something came and was attacking the sheep, okay, this is just because I'm in a modern Western society. We probably default to commodity. I would actually save my life and not worry about the 10 sheep. Right? I mean, okay, maybe I'm the only one that would think like this. But in reality, let the wolf have the sheep. I'll just get some more. Okay? Partly we don't understand it because we don't view sheep as a livelihood. But in that day and age, of course, this was like your very livelihood, wasn't it? You know, it was a much more important, critical thing. And we realized Jesus would say, wait, sometimes we would say, oh, we've got 99, don't worry about the one. I've got enough. It's okay, don't worry about this last one over here. The good shepherd, the good shepherd, the good shepherd gives his own life for one. Gives his own life for one. Gives his own life for one that might have even chosen to go away. One that might have even had a bad experience and decided to go away. The one that we don't even know why the one went away. But the good shepherd will do whatever they can to find the one that went away. The good shepherd does something totally different. Jesus is saying, I am so different to everything else that you've expected or experienced before. I am so different. He is the good shepherd that lays down his life. And we're going to wrap this whole sort of morning up now. We're going to do it by just taking some communion. We've got some bread and some juice here. Because Jesus, I told you at the beginning, Jesus didn't just tell us and teach us and then demonstrate it. He actually lived it. He did something about it. Here they are telling nice stories about sheep and shepherds giving their lives away for the sheep and then giving their lives away for the sheep. And then lo and behold, he does it. He gives his life away for the sheep. He does it. He gives his life away for the sheep. Because he wants the sheep to understand that he is so different to everything else we have ever experienced. He wants the sheep to understand, know how far away they've gone, know how much confusion, know how much misunderstanding. Last week we looked at how much anger or grief or wonderings. No matter where we go, he wants us to know he is a different kind of shepherd, the kind of shepherd that lays down his life for the sheep. And it's not just mere sentiment, and it's not a pithy saying. He loved us to death because he's the good shepherd that lays down his life. And while we do the communion, we're going to have a worship song playing up here. And you'll recognize the song, but we've just got the words to Psalm 23. David, who was a shepherd, he wrote this psalm, which is like a song. He wrote this song, and the words will be coming up, and it just talks about how the Lord is our shepherd. And maybe while that's playing through, maybe you've never seen it before, maybe you do it, you can sing along if you want to sing the song, or you can just read the words as they come up. But what I want us to lean into as we do this is can we recognize his voice today? Can we trust his voice today? And can we follow his voice today? Maybe today is your first day to begin to recognize that Jesus was actually very different to everything else you've known before. Maybe you're going to recognize something different. Or maybe today is the day when you learn to trust. Because we all can be beset by anxiety and fear and worry. And maybe today is the day we learn to trust the good shepherd, to trust the one that will lead us and guide us and cares for us and wants to see us live life to the full. See, I don't know what you're experiencing. I don't know what you're facing. Maybe for you need today to be the moment where you just say, I trust. I trust. Or maybe today is the day when you begin to say, it's time to follow. It's time to follow. Wherever you lead me, I'm going with you. Whatever you call me to do, I'm going with you. I don't know what my future holds. Maybe you're younger and you're not sure what the rest of your life holds. Today could be the day when you say, you know what? I'm in. I'm following you. Maybe you're sort of at another crossroads in your life and you're not sure what to do or where to go, and maybe there's this niggle in your heart and you're not really sure about what you should do. Maybe today is the day to start to say, I follow you. Maybe today is your day. So I'm just going to pray for us. If we could start the song playing, that would be really cool. Just like that. Cool. Yeah. Father, thank you so much for who you are. God, I just pray that today could be the day when we begin to recognize your voice, that we begin to understand differently. But God, I pray that today could be the day that we begin to trust you. And God, that today could be the day where we begin to follow you. Thank you that you are the shepherd who gave his life. You are the good shepherd. Thank you so much for all that you've done. In your name we pray. Amen. So whenever you would like, feel free, come forward, grab some of the bread, the juice, and do business with God. Is today the day that you recognize the voice, trust his voice, and follow his voice?
I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Thank you, Jesus. When I was a fool, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Holy, overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till found, leaves the 99. I couldn't turn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. No shadow won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't turn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Father, thank you so much for who you are. God, thank you for you didn't just tell us and teach us. You actually put it into action. You demonstrated it. You lived it. Thank you so much. Thank you that you meet us where we are. You appreciate the baggage that we've carried. And instead of telling us off, you lead us. You show us a different way. Because you are the good shepherd. In your name we pray. Amen. So prayer that wherever you're at today, you would know the one who's for you, who loves you, who is leading you and guiding you. A voice that you can recognize and trust and follow. Have an amazing, wonderful rest of the week. If you have to go, have an awesome time. If you can stick around for another coffee, drink, whatever. In a few minutes, you have to collect your children. So they'll be here on this room to the side, and the signing out forms are just there at the door. So please make sure you collect your little sheep. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.